Hello, Erie. Yeah. All right, have a seat, have a seat.
Wow.
Let's get started here, Erie.
Welcome to Erie, Pennsylvania.
It is good to be back in Erie. I was telling Steve that whenever I come up here, you forget how beautiful it is up here. It is flying over and you got the lake and the tributaries and rivers, and it's nice up here. Now, I have to say, as a Hawaii kid, I'm coming here in the summer, maybe a little different than the winter, but I'm sure it has its own beauty that I simply will not partake.
They call it lake effect. You know that from Chicago. Hey, before we start, the playlist, these were all your songs that they were listening to.
You know what? I have to say, I recognized that some of these tunes were mine. Forgive me if there were some explicit lyrics in a few of them. I would have tailored it a little more carefully, but yeah, people have been skeptical that I make my own playlists. They're all like, "Oh, that's just your staff." I said, "No, check out my phone. It's on there. That's what I'm working out to." I do get recommendations sometimes from Malia and Sasha.
And they're both doing well?
They are doing fantastic. They are. They are doing great. They are now 27 and 24. Yeah, that's right. Time has passed, people. just want you to know.
So, Mr. President, we have a lot of serious things to talk about, but let's just talk about you for a moment. You are writing part 2 of your memoirs. You are working on your library, the foundation, trying to figure out where to put that 3rd Emmy. Congratulations.
Well,
You look great. How are you spending your time? There's no typical day. You're in Erie, but give us a sense of what life's been like.
Well, since I left office, I have spent over 8 years now trying to dig myself out of a hole with Michelle. And that's been challenging, but I feel like I'm making progress. I'm almost breaking even at the moment. There isn't a typical day, as you mentioned. A lot of my energy is around the foundation, which our focus is how do we develop the next generation of leaders, not just here in the United States, but around the world. And so we have a range of programs. Some of them are focused on very young people. Some are focused on people who I consider young but are in their 30s. Some are in government. We have legislators, members of parliament, chiefs of staff for presidents, but we also have doctors who are setting up clinics in sub-Saharan Africa. We have human rights activists in countries where human rights, unfortunately, aren't being observed. We have people who are working on climate change. We have entrepreneurs who are trying to increase economic opportunity in places that don't have it. And so we spend a lot of time trying to help connect these amazing young leaders all around the country and all around the world so that they don't feel like they're alone, so that they have resources and mentors and training so that they can maximize their impact and make the world better. And so I spend a lot of time on that. We've got the Presidential Library was slightly delayed because it broke ground right as COVID happened, which, you remember that. That was a drag. But it's going to be opening next year, and we are thrilled with that. And so that'll be sort of the epicenter of a lot of the work that we do. I am writing, hopefully, only
Part two.
Part two, hopefully only until the end of this year. I am a slow writer. I write this stuff myself, and that's a bad habit I got into, as opposed to hiring somebody to write it for me. But it's interesting, obviously, looking backwards at sort of the journey I was on as president, and then trying to connect that to some of the events and challenges that America and the world face today.
Well, speaking of the events of the world, you are in Pennsylvania, as you know, earlier this year, the governor's mansion, the subject of an arson attack, the tragedy in Minnesota back in June, the horrific murder in Utah of a conservative activist. Are we at an inflection point in our country? Where are we today?
Well, we are certainly at an inflection point, not just around political violence, but there are a host of larger trends that we have to be concerned about. I think it is important for us at the outset to acknowledge that political violence is not new. It has happened at certain periods in our history. But it is something that it is anathema to what it means to be a democratic country. And regardless of where you are on the political spectrum, what happened to Charlie Kirk was horrific and a tragedy. What happened, as you mentioned, to the state legislators in Minnesota, that is horrific. It is a tragedy. And there are no ifs, ands, or buts about it. The central premise of our democratic system is that we have to be able to disagree and have sometimes really contentious debates without resort to violence. And when it happens to some, but even if you think they're quote unquote on the other side of the argument, that's a threat to all of us. And we have to be clear and forthright in condemning it. Now, that doesn't mean that we can't have a debate about the ideas that people who were victims of political violence were promoting. And so I've noticed that there's been some confusion, I think, around this lately. And frankly, coming from the White House and some of the other positions of authority that suggest, even before we had determined who the perpetrator of this evil act was, that somehow we're going to identify an enemy. We're going to suggest that somehow that enemy was at fault, and we are then going to use that as a rationale for